I'm seeing a few faces, but for a brief moment, can I, if you'd like, request that we all come up and show our face and wave to each other, so we will see ourselves in person, at least for a brief moment, and then we can go into our hideouts. Can we do that? Yes, I can see Pastor, I can see Brother Seth, I can see Visions. Hello, Vision.
Yeah. Yes, sir, Pastor. If you want Vision to sing for you before you begin, we are ready to get going.
Oh, why not? Why not? Yes, I think we would enjoy a song. But let's finish with the waves. Sister Ellen, good to see your face.
Yes.
It's good. It's good. It's good. Let's see if we can get a few more coming up. So at least I know I'm not talking to boxes of screens.
I am told by Brother Humphrey in the UK that Hannah and Esther are also joining and they want to sing for you. So we have Vision, we will have Hannah and Esther to sing. So whichever time you want them to sing, use them, please.
You know what? Let's enjoy the music. Let's enjoy the facial looks and also the music. I think the two will be good.
Sure.
And after that, I believe we can ease out into our hideout as we continue the
wonderful
discussion. Thank you, Pastor.
So
Vision now.
You look so beautiful.
So the way the harmony was actually coming, it sounds like there's a vision for each one of us. And I believe that is beautiful. Pastor Amama Swati said we have our two young stars in almost Hannah and Esther. Yes. And then we go into our discussion tonight. It's the blessed message from Pastor Dr. Ewu earlier in the day. And I believe if you have been following the campaign this month, it has been simply amazing. In BC, and to God be the glory. This afternoon, wherever you are actually joining us from, we're going to continue with our series on relationship, and we know we are asking God to help each and every one of us to have or build a good, strong relationship. And yes, I believe, let me see if I can share my screen too. Good. So we are on our second session, and we are looking at the title, A Hurtful Story. But before I say about Empire, last week, the topic was Once Upon a Time. I believe Pastor will guide me as usual, how I should proceed. So if you see me twisting my tongue, I'm just taking instructions behind the scenes. But I believe everybody here will be blessed. But last week we started with on the topic Once Upon a Family Time. And I want to ask if you were here or if you have followed this, what can you recall from last week's conversation? And if you are able to come up and share with us something that really caught your attention, the simplest form. Can we do this? Very, very quickly? Diana, what in the last week I've been to let me see if the first one actually to start the ball rolling. One a bit to me, what really caught your attention last week? Once Upon a Family Time.
Pastor Ellen.
Okay, Sister Ellen, good to see you again.
Good to see you. How family dynamics have changed. We'll come back to 1930s, I believe, and I said 40s. Now we're kind about after war, no? said the Masai na family dynamics necessary papa for no free fee afe a man no and the team corano. I think said that was a nowadays baby na beginning no now umpo can say your babies I said where your relationship but why are you talking about this? But I thought said that was so very crucial for us to understand change any change about family mo. He said you want no bus and a man free feel the coin. That car a man they have to go and work, right? It's a man the bar back no more place in the same. They don't have a place because no more before the war no more yet home breadwinners. And the man no see homemakers. But she said the man no a man no a jumano. So where is the fathers? Into now baby a and I was not many pass so you hit that point for us to understand how family dynamic has really shifted. Into I must say a man no abaye mema sabi mpamucho and a man no so full say a man abedu omajuma because right now the woman has come out of the closet, have taken a lot of the manly role no. Into my family no assist sapra. Into I'm saying they maintain.
Wow.
That's
So
amazing.
we have a presenter in the house, you know.
That's amazing.
And I think Sister Ellen, you are a testament to the fact that DC we don't have passive listeners. We have very, very active listeners, which is excellent. Thank you.
Amen.
And just to add on what you said, even we went as far back as to during the Industrial Revolution, which was the 1800s, where we knew family was more or less a given. You know, everybody knew what it was. But as we approach this day, yes, I don't want to give much away because I know that somebody else want to talk. But thank you for that's a very good start. But no pressure on the second one. You can say whatever you want to say. Okay, who want to go? Let's take maybe two more and then we move on.
Pastor, I think I also want to say something. I remember you gave us the 4 cardinals. That is the 4 weeks of our presentation and what we are anticipating of achieving. So you gave us the north, south, east, and west, which signifies a lot of things: prudence, fortitude, justice, and then temperance as well for the last part. So Auntie Ellen has spoken a lot of what I wanted to say. So I would just wanted to add this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, which is very, very important. Thank you. We have that picture, that pictorial representation of the month of September and what we are focusing on. And we said that last week we started with gaining knowledge, wisdom, which is the first one on the north. Thank you, Brother Eric. Thank you. Can we take one more and then we shift into today?
Okay. I talk where time I'm about my man commercials here. Now the what kind of so may be a bushia. You can be say our layer and our layer a joint. Inti busuya se wa wale wife oba na se oba wale bema ma beye busuya ena nkwala emojem ade like DNA you know busuya ena adoption yeah sa normal miensa we no wo declare se wo adopt obia to say yeah call be this spiritual where nyame adopt here inti yeah nyame ma yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, damunyi na amase. I know in summary a few of the things that you have said, just to sum it up, was until recently the question, what is a family, didn't almost exist. because it was given. It wasn't something that was a problem. But as we discovered today, that term has become a term of confusion. We explored a few countries here, near also around, and you see that there are no legal definition for what family is. Even over one country, various sectors of the country, family is defined differently for different purposes. Something which didn't need a definition because it was self-evident what family was. Now it has become something that we don't even know what it is. And that is a serious confusion. And we learn to say, if you don't know what something is, if you cannot define something and know what it is, then you can use it for different things. I mean, you can use it for different purposes, which may not be their main purpose of existence. That is why we see most of the challenges around family relationship, because most people, we don't even know what it is. So the question how we answer that question on family is so important, because that is the beginning of how a family ankasa eye. And they all pointed us to one thing that God and the Bible is absolutely clear about. So we are all engaged in a war, but this war is not a physical war, but an ideological one, the battle of the mind. Remember Paul saying this: we stand up against arguments, because that is where the battles are, and therefore we should wear the full armor of God. And family is the place where the battle is fierce, is at its fiercest. The engagement is quite serious. So Satan is fighting us because he knows the importance of family to our happiness and salvation. If he can destroy family, then we are less likely to be happy and, of course, appreciate the salvation God has for us. So these were some of the things that we spoke about. I know there was quite a few in, but that was for the first day. Enti yedamu nyina amase enne yebetoa so. We are looking at matters of disagreements, protracted arguments, clashes, and how to avoid them or even manage them in family relationship. Yɛhwɛ ntɔkwa, akasakasa, ako, ɛne nneɛma ɛtete saa ɛwɔ abusua mu ne kwan a yɛbɛfa so asi ano anaasɛ yɛbɛsɔ ano nka ne saa. Nti your title for a hurtful story is simply because far too often conflict is a hurtful reality to every relationship. Conflict and I say happens every day in every family. But we also know that some people do better by confronting them, managing them, and resolving them, even dealing with them sometimes. But some people struggle. It's a real challenge. And that is what we want to spend some time on, so we can retell the story from a hurtful one to one of happiness. I think it was Brother Eric or Brother Seth. I think one of you reminded us that last week we started with the 4 cardinals, and we saw the various. We did actually say that in the ancient world, a virtuous life was seen from these 4 cardinal points. The first one was prudence, wisdom, justice, which is fairness and righteousness. This is where God comes into the equation. Of course, wisdom also. If you believe, then you know knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom comes from heaven. Knowledge is what you are seeking down here. But also fortitude. You can have all the wisdom in the world. You can have all the attitude towards righteousness and justice. But if you don't have the courage and strength to demonstrate them and take certain actions, then they remain more intellectual and ideological. So what was Sanyama we say would say then it remains a dream. But also we said, so whatever you do, a virtuous life will consider how to control oneself, temperance and moderation. In fact, we did quote one of my favorite verses or passages from Mrs. White, which says, if every Christian is to receive a Nobel Award, then it has to be determined by how they control themselves. Self-control is the highest, is the evidence of a Christian's self-control. And these things put together are quite important, and therefore to retell the story of a relationship from one of hurts and conflicts to one of happiness and purpose, we must consider all these four things as I will every day I will put this up because I think it's something that we should understand properly. And that is the objective for today. In simple terms, every one of us, I pray, will live here today, will be free has said this afternoon, with the strongest belief that my family relationship can also become one of a virtuous relationship. That is the whole point for today. So what to be free has said with that attitude that to God be the glory, because that is what we are seeking to achieve, how we manage conflict and how we can turn things around within our families. So that is what today is about. Let's pray. Let's bow our heads and pray. Father, we have come to the point where I'm asking you to put me aside and speak to your church. Speak to me, speak for me, speak through me, and let every heart and every mind be lifted up and be enlightened by the wisdom from heaven in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, so I don't know. Say Abia, what now actually we need to do the human body, what now how if actually taking a pause lately to think about how wonderfully you've been made. Or how complex the human body is. Well, David knew this, so he told us in Psalms 139 verse 14. I'll say, I am wonderfully and fearfully made. Why? Because God, the complex creator, can also help us to manage our complex conflicts. Into the question, does anyone take time to consider how wonderfully and fearfully they have been made? I do. And it is a big yes, because anytime I take time to study the parts of the body, what they do, anyhow, sometimes, they work on fine margins. So blood pressure, it has to, remain in fine margins. And it tells you how wonderful God created our body. But you see, there is so many object lessons that we can take from our body. And today I want us to approach the conversation by taking an object lesson from one of the organs of our body. It is not one of the big ones, a very tiny part or organ of our body. And yet, it is one of the most important parts of our body. Okay, so on top of your kidney around your waist, kidney and nestrohon, there are a group of cells that produce essential body chemicals or hormones. And two of them, they are on top of your kidney. And the hormones they produce are adrenaline and cortisol. So if you look at your kidney, the sapono those ones are the ones we are talking about. Now, they are called the adrenal gland. Now, there is a principle about the chemicals that these adrenal glands produce. There are quite a few of them, but we are focusing on two, the adrenaline and cortisol. So work with me. We're going to cut short our conversation at some point so we can have more time for question and answers. But you see, all conflict, big or small, medium, they produce stress. It is often conflict here and Tatawa Nasa Apriya now or how or a war within that bracket may be a friend of conflict. And conflict produces stress, as we know. And once you have stress, you know there is some conflict somewhere. Now, stress is our self-defense mechanism against harmful elements in our world. And Yemfan said, two things in our stress one, when you are hurt, you experience stress. What I said was sent in a year, be a meow, be a two, pani be a wall, what could tia be so, be a show, physically and emotionally, they are all stress. That hurts produces stress. And or if you turn it the other way around, the fact that you are having that hurt, that experience means that something is stressing you. Okay, so that is the first indication. The second thing, because the second defense mechanism, which we learn from stress, when you are about to be hurt, when I'm in a stage where hurt is just approaching me, then also my body experience stress. Now, notice that the first one we take very seriously. I don't know the last time bibi a year we are, bibi pian a year we are, and I say, something really hurt you. What happened was, whenever or what normally happens in these situations, your brain shifts into action mode and instructs the adrenal gland. Immediately you are hurt or you are about to be hurt within these two context, whether the hurt is experienced or yet to be experienced. Within each of these, your brain shifts into an action mode and instructs the adrenal gland to release these two chemicals into the system because stress is experienced. Now, the adrenal gland is the first to be released, and then within minutes, the cortisol is released. Now, once the two chemicals, the two hormones are released into your bloodstream, into your body, you become impulsive, you are able to rush, you're able to act effectively against the hurt. I don't know the last time I wouldn't hurt you, but example. Maybe I won't baby in a dino dream. Unfortunately, when Sako share dome in a door, no ekatumuna FO. That time on a door, no on Sashimua FO. That is not where you use your right hand to pick your phone and call the health and safety person and say, hello, sir, health and safety, mensa akoshe do, what do I do? You don't do that, Meboa. You take every necessary action to take your hand off. And the reason why you're able to do that, sometimes even aggravating the hurt, yes, sir, the brain has told the glands to produce these two chemicals. And once they come into you, you are in a state to act. And it is swift. It is instant. Or let's say you have a dog bite. Kramai air cow. You don't start thinking of, oh wait, Kramai cow advice bena veterinary officers ne the say Kramai cow. I don't think anybody does that. All the strength you have, you use it to hit the dog, throw it away, to take yourself away from hurt and danger and put yourself in a safer state. That is what these two chemicals do, and it's all done to adrenaline and cortisol. So as long as any necessary action works, it is good. So this is what we do when we are facing, or when we have actually faced or we experience the hurt. But there's also the second part, when the hurt is in touching distance. I'm going to show you something on my screen. First, near my media to screen, you see, a dying stroke. You know, within maybe the next minute, the child is going to fall from that height. Now, how do you feel? Or ABR, you see winter, what will be with tear sleepy slope will be so, and I don't know air panel. It's just it's not happening yet, but it's just about to happen. How do you feel? And now Kolebi air core escalator to the opposite direction, and you know say utia swa ebe yinahe. And I say, yeah, street to my colleague or bobo. Now okochibo no care big to be care about, you know say car cannot stop. How do you react in any of these events? And this is the thing. Immediately you see your eyes spot any of these things, the same reaction, the instructions of your brain take place. Again, your brain tells your adrenal gland, this is about to happen. Whether it is you, whether it is somebody, the fact that it is going to have some impact on you, your adrenal gland tells your body, produces this, and you are in such a state to say you can act. Sometimes you know, say you can jump and pick a kolano because you don't want to be hurt, you don't want a kolano to be hurt, but your body also need to prepare you for the action ahead. Now, this is why what David says, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, means more to me than just reading it as a text. Because this is a wonderful mechanism, and it is every one of us do have this. Our stress response is activated when we have the sick feeling that something bad is about to happen. Adrenaline and cortisol prepare us for actions, and it makes you ready. So these are the two concepts I don't want you to mix. And every day I ask myself, it seems to say I don't get it, do I? We are talking about family, relationship, and I'm always going off tangents. No. Because for me, these are the things that make me think about family differently. Listen to me here. So we've talked about the things that we see. Adrenaline and cortisol will make you jump when normally it seems impossible. Adrenaline and cortisol make you a different person. But this is where the problem is. See, when you are in any relationship, whether it's a marital relationship, maybe a relationship, sometimes even your church relationship, sometimes your work relationship, everywhere that you have some relationship, when you are in this relationship and there is conflict, these things that we are talking about also happen. The moment you see, especially the second one, the moment you see the person who is the perpetrator of the conflict, or anybody involved in the moment you see the person, remember, God has made this mechanism in you so your body is safe. So your body is now telling you to move to a safer place, and it causes stress in yourself because the adrenal gland is at work. Adrenaline and cortisol are ejecting into your bloodstream. So when the stress is long term, when you experience what we call anticipative stress, in most long-term conflicts, or when you worry so much because somebody is in conflict with you, somebody is about to harm you, you are going to engage in a certain argument which is not helpful. The outcomes is this: your body is releasing adrenaline and cortisol as if you were actively in danger. So when we hear it, and I say, when you not, and now, we push your phone. I said, maybe if you remember, Asamoah, because the way our casa, the way you're here, in their absence, you are fine. But the moment I can't pack adrenaline and cortisol release into your bloodstream, no time, because you become so hyper alert. Say, at this time, my body is preparing for conflict. Now, this is the sad part. The moment adrenaline and cortisol are supposed to be only active in your body for a very short time, because if it extends, the dose will be as a child, it is going to cause a lot of health problems in you. And these things, when it becomes long term and the stress is on you, you have something that God has designed and can get very short, simple for you to act and put yourself in safety when you are in danger. Now it is like a non-stop, pour into your system, and it's not good. And this is how we must start understanding the conversation on conflict. In fact, when your body is hyper alert, I've just put a few points here. So conflict, especially the long-term conflict, trigger the chronic release of adrenaline and cortisol in your blood. Your body and brain remains on hyper alert status, and this wears you up, it eats you up, it causes you so much problems. And in fact, you are always, when you say you are hyper alert, it's like you are running, because every part of your body, according to the state of emergency, every part of your body is doing something. Even when nothing is chasing you, you are like running. Whether you have food or you are tired or not, it doesn't matter. You are still running. And that is what leads you to more sickness, more illness, and it shuts your immune system. You are always not well. It suppresses your digestive system. Your reproductive system is affected. Your normal growth is affected. Your mood, your motivation is always affected. There is a constant fear. There is low productivity in you. You are always running, even if nothing is chasing you. Nothing is catching you, but you are running. Now imagine all these problems happening to your child, because your child knows, Mommy need that they shout at me. What you're actually doing from a very young age, you are leaving Akolano in a permanent state of oversecretion of adrenaline and cortisol. And all Nyamaya Kenyano say affected because of something that you even don't take notice of. You are shouting. Now you make a Kolano feel bad. You see where this is going now? And why it is so important for us to look at things a bit differently today. So dealing with conflict for me is not even a family life topic. It is a new way to enjoy life, knowing that it is in the family that there are conflicts near most. But beyond that, a new way you can live your complete life in happiness, the way God wants you to be. When himself COVID-19, I say abuse also in every country, because we have been hiding behind work, the problems we have in our families. But when now you have to live with people that sometimes you create this conflict and you're going to stay with them in the house throughout the day. Never mind the fact that you are not working but you are paid. You see increase in abuse, and it means we are all not good in managing conflicts. COVID-19 did expose all of us. See, and you're good. So to sum things up, let's see what Paul reminds us of. Now, Paul, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 20 says, do not ever let your wrath, that is your conflicts, your exasperation, your fury, your indignation, all this hurt, all these things that happens to you, don't let them last until the sun goes down. For me, this is a matter of time. And you see, sometimes, the Bible, Asamoah, we read over them so many times, and we miss some of the points. But when Paul is talking about, don't let the sun goes down, you can quickly put that into a very simple text to say, he says, deal with your conflict as soon as possible. Because the longer you leave it, the more you are allowing more adrenaline and cortisol in your system, and the more you are killing yourself. So sort it out. It is a matter of time. Your own health is at risk, not the one you are in conflict with, but your own health is at risk. What are the hotspots of conflicts in our relationship? Well, we can talk about so many, but I like us to have this acronym, DAB. I think that one nobody will forget. D stands for disagreement. 9 out of 10. Actually, we can actually say 10 out of 10. All the disagreements that you have in your life are likely to lead to some stress, some conflict in your relationship. Now, the thing is, think of all the things you and your spouse cannot agree on. It may be happening because one of you has approved of it, but the other one hasn't. And that leads to conflict. Both husband and wife must reach a consensus before that turns from a conflict to a non-conflict. So disagreements. In your relationship, if you have disagreement, now start looking at it, say, disagree with. What is it causing in me? Remember adrenaline and cortisol. The second one, A, I said DAB. The A stands for arguments, and this is protracted arguments. It is a sign of conflicted relationship. So keep an eye on that too. And the last one is bullying. Whether it is a direct or indirect bullying, it harms because bullying actually, I have intentionally, decided to harm somebody, to intimidate somebody, to force somebody, to coerce somebody. That is bullying. And it's also a conflict because that causes a lot of problems in the body. So the next time you hear of conflict, don't make it too complicated. Just think of DAB. Am I that person who is always in disagreement with somebody? Then yes, I'm causing a lot of conflict. Am I somebody who is, my agreement is also not just disagreement, but protracted, in each other. It can last, I'm still arguing about something. And anytime, on this date, 6 March 1957, independence. So that is how far it goes. And that is something that we can use to really nail down what we are talking about as conflict. So I've called it DAB. And it's important to know, sir, conflict determines the quality and the quantity of the relationship among family members. It is it determines how long you live, whether you are going to have a very good life or you are going to have a very, unhappy life. Sometimes shorter than where God wants it to be. If you were to give a profile to conflicts, I love making these things because they summarize it for me. The main cause of conflicts are expectations. I think it was our first presentation in May when we did a series in May. We had a session a day that we spoke about expectations. They are the number one cause of conflict. And there are three main things that we spoke about. We have imaginative gap, where you imagine so many things, but your reality, baby, what you are imagining, emotion, that's a gap on it. You can never get there. Assume you say you are in your 60s and now suddenly you want to become the best lawyer in the world. Yes, it's possible, but it may not be practical because you have to now go to school, practice, get experience, and do all those things. Into that expectation, the more you fight towards these unexpected things, then you are actually going to have a lot of conflict to deal with. And expectations are not normally met in most situations. So in that case, people come into marriage, remember, with different expectations. Most of the time, the expectations are not even possible. They are just unreal. And yet, they want to meet those expectations. And it ruins they live a life of relationship of conflict throughout. The occurrences of this anytime. But you see, conflicts are normal parts of relationship. If you are able to manage conflicts, then it wouldn't be a problem. In the same way, if you think about what we spoke on about expectation, if you're able to manage your expectation, so to manage your expectation is good. You need to have expectation to survive and to be able to encourage and motivate yourself. But when the expectations are unreal, then they become a problem. And the last one, escalation. When the conflicts become a problem, when we approach solutions in the wrong way, then they escalate into something else. So I want you to keep this profile. So we talked about the main things, the DAB, how to define conflict, disagreement, protracted argument, and bullying. Think about this, whether you are receiving it or you are giving it. They are the major causes of conflict. And here we are looking at the profile as expectation, occurrence, and how they escalate when we use the wrong approach. So to wrap things up, let us talk about some main things around us in the home that are real when it comes to conflicts, and how God can help us to retell our story from a hurtful one to a happy one. So the main areas where conflict progress to problems. Some of the things that we are going to talk about here. And I want us to start with what we call the everyday failures. Niema and way and change every day that are likely to generate into conflicts if we don't deal with them. We are talking about conflict that is so severe, say it will cause adrenaline and cortisol to be pouring into us every now and then. So everyday failures and daily expectations. Now, this may not be a problem for you if you are a single person. Remember, I said last time, family was not defined in single terms. So if you haven't got to the point of marriage, then that's a different conversation. And the present definition of single home, single mom, single dad, single whatever, wasn't actually considered family, because you have to have that connection. The connection where you are serving and people are serving you, you are contributing to and people are contributing to your happiness. And therefore, we are talking about people who have real relationships. Some of you may be married relationships. Some of you are dating and at the point of going to marry. Some of you have married, you have given birth to all your children, and you have just got to the point where you are just winding down life. Wherever your situation is, as long as you have people in your life, keep an eye on these things that can turn from daily failures, daily expectations into serious conflicts. One, I've just put there coming home late without notifying. Let me say it is part of a normal life to come home late. So we feel late, a part of normal life. But what can you do to minimize its potential to escalate from conflicts, everyday conflicts, to real problematic conflicts? Sometimes ago, you could argue, say, there was no means. But today, a text message, a WhatsApp message, a phone call, some of you with unlimited phone access, instant communication tools, it is always possible. Enti, so when you hear it, and now you can not that's when you saw be late here. What do you miss? What text? Why text it? Text. What text here? You have actually dealt with a problem, a potential problem, a conflict that could actually escalate to something that has been solved. But also, studies actually say one of the places that we have the most tension in the home is around the toilet area, the bathroom and the toilet. It may sound funny as a make a mystery, but it is one of the hotspots. And when these things are not dealt with, toilet seats are cleaning, they ain't cleaning. Sometimes even toothpaste. Then you use toothpaste here, and we're that way you me crime free to. These simple things that you trivialize, they are major causes of conflict. That is what human beings have come to. Sometimes wet floors in the bathroom. And if you are single, that's why I gave that little disclaimer there. If you are single, you probably haven't seen more of this. When you start moving people around you, especially if you have kids, the whole family, they are always fighting with their children because of these things. Bathroom and toilets, a very hotspot area, because we always want the place to be clean, don't we? These are minor things that can escalate into conflict. Please, in your relationship, keep an eye on this area. The other thing is clothing. Say sofa muna betina because we are braining we water na de agua kunyani. And either say we even pesa and now we come pesa. And the bia we so be catch us na akunya upa we dey fata ne say hands and dia because the bia we dey pasa. Clothes. It's not supposed to bring conflict, but it is. We think it's only men who would leave their clothes in the sofa. Women have their own downside too, in the bedroom. Please keep an eye on them. You can avoid them by having a conversation and also planning what to do ahead of time. Because I never took any of these things seriously. These are just. Let's talk about serious stuff. These are serious stuff because they can actually turn things around. They can shift the tables. The last one that personally I remember And here I put my hand up to say uncomfortable mannerisms. Now, uncomfortable mannerism, you are talking about things that some people cannot stand. Like sometimes if you are and you are picking your nose in public, sometimes and nice now these things are not supposed to be problems, but you only have to wait and get home, and once you close the door, that is where you start getting the lecture. So tell me, what was that all about? These are not nice. When people say when you marry, you sell your freedom, I don't think so. I love one of my favorite writers and clinical psychologist, Jordan Peterson, made a comment why marriage is good. He says that you as a normal person, technically, your sanity is limited. You always need people to point you and become like your mirror and tell you, oh, they reinforce the good things you're doing. But they will tell you that they will say change it, and they help you to become a better person. So that raises a serious problem if you are single, right? Because then it means you are walking through life without any mirror. Okay, that is how he paints the picture. So for me, if my spouse comes and tell me, say, these mannerisms, it's not good. It is juice. It is gold for me, because that is their job. They are supposed to tell me. But the problem is, why do these things turn into serious problems? Because we don't even think of them as conflict hotspots. And these come with prudence, one of the cardinals, knowledge and wisdom. And I pray as we go through this series, we are able to grasp the full import of how to avoid them. So a few things that we can do to avoid this. I think the first one, on the daily one, it is good to say, and I've put there helpful suggestions. In our relationship, let us limit our expectations. Now, can we say, because especially in our relationship, most marriages here, conflict womb and talk about womb, our kasakasa de brain. It is because you have the man who has his what we call red lines, and the woman having their red lines. Into the woman red line, for example, let's take the bathroom for example. In my life, I cannot tolerate a house with wet floors after bathroom. I cannot tolerate that. My red lines is the floor should be dry at all time. That is my red line. Obama so red line is it doesn't bother me. I don't care. You see how it generates into. But these are expectations. Your expectation becomes your red line. And to lower them and start working together so you can build up together. And that is a very important way to manage this conflict. The Bible talks about patience and understanding. Whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays fully. Even if you know it doesn't make sense, the Bible is always right. Take your time, pick your moment, find the right time to deal with it. No. It may hurt, but that is where you lower your expectation. Yes, I don't like my husband picking the nose in public, but I will wait and deal with it at the right time. And that helps in addressing the conflict. There are other texts there that we wouldn't have the time to read, but quickly, Ecclesiastes 7, 8, and 9 say, the end of the matter is better than its beginning. The patience is starting a quarrel is like breaching a dam. So drop the matter before a dispute breaks out. These are wise sayings, and I believe that may help each one of us going forward. Number 2, where conflict progresses again, apart from the everyday ones that we are talking about, the everyday things that I've just given a few, but you can think of your own home. Every day, what are the possible hotspots of conflict, and how can I avoid them so they don't? In fact, let's put it this way, that from what the Bible is saying, how can I ensure that I'm not foolish by managing it before it gets out of hand? But the second one, negligence and deliberate acts. Well, for me, this is one area that I approach with a lot of humility, because negligence is bad, but deliberate acts is evil. So what? Let me see some of the things we put down. Refusing to cook. I don't know whether we're going to place this under negligence or deliberate acts. You see, one of the beauty of relationship is the fact that we have roles. And these roles, whether it is culturally constructed, say whether it's culture and the way we were brought up and whatever it is. Once you go into a relationship, you need to sit down and establish them. Into a very, very good and successful relationship is a relationship that everyone knows their role. So in this relationship, so be it. But I must take that seriously. But you see, when the everyday, and I'm saying this because I believe that some people may think, we are saying, I don't believe in that. Yes, women play a very active role in cooking, but cooking, depending on your family and how you have met to actually define your roles, do it. Whether it is the man to cook or the woman to cook, do it. You need to respect what your relationship has prescribed and put on the table. That is what makes your relationship unique, because your relationship is different from my relationship, and we must honor our relationships. And say every day once now you can't once a maybe bar. Would you imagine where it goes? I know my role is to cook today, but because I told my husband not to leave the bathroom wet, but he keep doing it, today I'm not cooking. I'm not performing my role. Maybe I know I have to clean the house. I have to help in this. I have to do that. This is my role. We have agreed on that. But I'm not doing that because I want to punish the other person. So any act of negligence, any act which is thought of deliberate, we must be very, very careful. And this has a very extensive list. I'm just going to share a few, because in some relationship you will know, sir, we have made an arrangement how we pay bills. ABR, take these bills once I take these bills, even though we all keep our money, we have our money in one pot, but you take charge of this and I'll take charge of that. Then suddenly 2 months down the line you have this letter. Yes, I didn't do it because XYZ. These things don't help the family, and they move from minimal conflict, into serious ones, and we must pay attention to that. We can say a lot about each of these, but for our ladies, let me emphasize that we are the managers of the home. We learned some time ago that men are the leaders and women are the managers. Leaders break new grounds, but you can break all the grounds that you want. You can, initiate all the things that you want in this world. If you don't have a good manager to get them going, they are just going to be useless. And that is how God has made us. And when you are managing something, please recognize, say, if it is used as punishment, it is only going to hurt everybody. Food is a good area to consider. Never punish the family with food. Whether you have children or you don't have children, food is a big one. It doesn't help anyone. Please think seriously about this. And I'll leave this here because I know we don't have much time. I could say more about this. I just want to move on to the next one. How we can avoid conflicts moving into problems. I've put here as a third point abuse, physical, sexual mistreatment, and harm. Now, this third one is very unfortunate. So in all relationship, and when it comes to conflict, we have to talk about these. We have to talk about abuse. And I pray that this doesn't happen amongst us as God-fearing people. Sadly, that is not the case. To physically, violently, and improperly treat anyone cruelly must not be mentioned amongst the saints of God. Now, to this, a wife or husband it is sin on steroids. If this is happening in your relationship, if anybody is abusing the other, because these ones are serious conflicts. So how can you abuse your spouse and expect to have an intimate relationship with them? Well, we put abuse. Say, abuse is the most lasting lesson a parent can give to their children, never to respect their spouse or anyone. So in your relationship, so you'll be a sebi, we a bema, utiati awire, utimi a bono, utimi a kansembi, na a trauma Asamoah. I want you to look at it from a different angle. Let's put a hold on the cortisol and adrenaline for a minute. Imagine, say, you are giving a lesson to your life, your child, for life. Say, my son, as you grow up, when you grow up, one day when you marry, never respect the wife that you are going to marry. Because if you look in this house, I don't respect your mom. Okay? That is what essentially you are telling your son every day. The same way, if you have a daughter, you are actually telling her, you are going to go into a relationship that you will never be respected. I don't care whether you decide to go or not. It's up to you. That is a lesson that you are giving to your daughter if you're a man. I want you to think about that. So your bar, if you would do Asamoah, that's a man who they will say, it's on steroids. It's the same thing that you are saying to them. These are serious stuff. Abuse must not be mentioned in the house of the Lord. Now, and here I can say, as a church, I think our position is the right one. That when there is a sense of abuse, a pastor comes in, he doesn't say, stay on there and keep the abuse going. No. The pastor would have to advise for a separation so the abuse can be sorted out. Love and trust are built so they can rejoin. Because that life must be protected and must be kept safe. And that is something that we must think about seriously. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, extreme harm, all these things are serious conflict. And of course, we have the other repercussion of the adrenaline and cortisol, also causing and creating further problems in ourselves. So finally, I would say on helpful suggestions, develop your positive personality. Develop your positive personality. Try to start conversations with a positive stroke. Now, positivity is very infectious. So we should be addressing in such a positive way, in a way you look at the positive and turn it into abuse. So you avoid it. So it doesn't even happen. And of course, if you get to the extreme, you actually state exactly what is going to happen. So, we know, I think it's I can't quote the exact research now, but I've read a few findings on how these things happen. And one that I want to share with everyone, in fact, talks about, in relationship, when people constantly, you refer to their past, that is what actually, one of the most likely cause of abuse in relationship, whether especially physical abuse. If anytime you are referring to your past, it's like daring people. And whether it's a man to a woman or a woman to a man, they don't help. They only escalate. So avoid referring to the past. We all have past. Let's say it. We have a past. So don't try to be the sacrilegious, standard creator, the bearer of the best tidings, always trying to let people know you don't have a past. Is only the one that you're talking about that is a sinner. No. It was Paul who reminded us, saying, for all of us have sinned, we can't get to the mark. But it says we are all incapable of hitting the mark, meaning say we all deserve the same grace. So you must be very cautious and careful when you approach how you use your tongue, so it avoids this conflict. If we cannot be positive about the past, then let's avoid them altogether. Avoid, and you are blessed in that way. Again, focus on the behavior, not generalization. If you want to deal with a particular issue, rather than generalizing it, focus on it. Say, Kofi, and Yama will say, that's it. Yana Hamika Kranti. A percent, in United States, you find a way between I did with. They can't be sooner than because into me. But one find a meeting in one country. I really want us to settle down and find a way forward. You see, you are dealing with a specific issue there, and that is a very helpful way in addressing some of these things. Where conflict progress to become problems, poor communication. I'm going to rush through the rest, but I need to finish in the next 3 minutes so we can pray. And I pray. This is a huge topic, but I pray that we can grasp the gist of what we want to focus on. So communication is a big thing. We can spend a whole hour talking about communication, but the areas that are really, really important in terms of how it addresses conflict is family times, devotion, meal times. They force communication to actually take place. And to try to make them routine. By routine, we are not saying it's a during Empire. I got a whole brief of what had happened in the week for the week in prayers. You've got to be very cautious on that one. But at least in devotion time and meal times, you're able to talk and have an open conversation because everybody can have a moment in there. But there is also a certain skill that we can use to make our family meetings good. I believe in the future there will be the chance, but also this is an awareness for each one of us that we can explore a bit further into these things, and they will help us. Playing sports together. Remember, the more you are together, the more you can talk. Remember, so what that's a well, I know most companies spend a lot of money in team building. And team building, what do? Sometimes let's go and play football, let's go on this store, let's go and do this together. It's just the fact that the more we are together, the more we can talk, and the more we are related, we are connected. So try to do things together, and that really, really helps. Sometimes just take a drive. Just take a drive. Let's drive to this place and back. In the car, it engages the two of you. And remember, always, if you want to hear more, try to use a 20-80 rule. Facilitate the conversation by talking 20% so you can elicit an 80% response. And that is also something, a skill I bet you use to help us to know more. Communication is good. Find last but one, financial problems. conflict well, it's not the root of evil for nothing, isn't it? But how you deal with finances, they say money is the source of all evil. Yes, finance is a major source of conflict for everyone. You have a conflict when you have more of it or you lack it. When you have conflict, conflict. So better manage what you have. So at least you know you are dealing with it. We can talk about so many things, but quickly, some of the helpful points. I know some of the sessions that you've had touched on finance, but these are just at high level conversation. We are not digging deep, but just in terms of conflict, how these things can help us. Make up your minds to be on the same team, trying to understand the deeper motivation behind overspending. I had a story, but I don't think I have the chance to tell it. But all that I will say is things like understanding the spending habits, the mindset of your spouse when it comes to money is critical, is foundational to the solution. But also, as a family, how you manage your family budget, how you agree on what you are spending on and what you are not spending on, help to resolve a lot of unnecessary problems. So, distorted beliefs and unrealistic expectations. We talked about this expectations, but distorted beliefs, when you, for example, you marry somebody who is a lawyer, and because the person's mindset, they have built a certain attitude towards something, and you haven't looked at that, and you are making conclusions going forward. That is a recipe for conflict. Again, your traditions. When we bring our traditions into our marriage, where we lived any other. When we bring them wholesale into a relationship, they form some expectations here, distorted, and that is something that we need to deal with. So sometimes we may have wrong beliefs, and they are not just good. I'm not saying not too good. We are saying wrong because they are simply wrong. Let us prioritize the important things in our family so we can address them and reconsider these cultural expectations. So these are the few things that I felt tonight I wanted to share with the saints, so they can help you start a conversation in your own family and relationship about conflict. If you sit down and you say, look, we always have a hurtful story to tell, but how do we turn our hurtful stories into a happy one? You have to start on conflict. Think about yourself, what they are doing to you, what they mean to you, and how they can be avoided in your relationship. And you will be able to successfully turn your conflict and your hurtful stories into stories of happiness.